Okay, live. There we are. Hi, how are you? April 7th today. Yes, I have a big cozy sweater on because here in New Jersey, it was feeling a little springy and today it's feeling chilly and rainy. So back to some big sweaters for me. I hope it's a great day wherever you are. And I wanted to talk today about different stages of stress. A lot of people have heard fight or flight. I don't know if you've heard necessarily of fight, flight, or freeze, but that actually is another part of the whole stress cycle. So I'm spending a lot of time on this topic because it's mostly what I do now, but also because, Time Magazine, special edition on stress, April, Stress Awareness Month. When we have a whole month dedicated to being aware and magazines like Time decide to do an entire special edition, it's because it's something to take notice of. It's not run of the mill. It's not the way life is supposed to be. So that's why there's a lot of attention paid. So there's so many places that we could go in the conversation around stress, and it can stress you out. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to focus on one chunk today, and look at the stress response in your body and see if I can explain that a little bit more to you so that you can understand. Okay. So I try to keep these always under like 30 minutes so it's not a big chunk of your day. So I'm going to dive right in. Oh, I didn't want to do that. Hold on one sec. Okay. Hopefully you can see this. Let me see if I can make this even bigger. Okay. If you can't read all of these little words, I'm going to go through it with you so that you can. And this looks maybe more confusing than it actually needs to be. But down here in the green, let- let's see. Let me just first talk about the different parts of your nervous system. And this is how I think of it, if this is helpful. Think of like two pilots flying an airplane or two conductors driving a train. You've got the regular full time pilot, and then you've got the other guy who's only supposed to take over when there's an emergency. Normally, the regular full time pilot should be running the show. The regular full time pilot of your nervous system is really this area here. This would be the parasympathetic part of your nervous system, the ventral vagal response. So the vagus nerve, that's why this is called polyvagal chart. The vagus nerve is a nerve that runs down behind your ear, and it's in control when you are at rest, when you're feeling calm and peaceful. That other pilot flying the plane or driving the train is when there's an emergency. That pilot has all the skills to handle with emergencies, but emergencies only. They're not supposed to be flying the plane the whole time. And that pilot is trained in the sympathetic nervous system. So it's the sympathetic part of your nervous system that takes over when you are feeling in danger, when you're hyper aroused. Okay, the parasympathetic or the vagus nerve running the show, that main nerve in the nervous system, is when you're feeling safe, you feel connection, you feel like your environment is okay. And so the words that you see here are calm, settled, and also the way that you think and are interacting with other people. So you're feeling compassionate, you feel like you have the resources to be giving, to be creative, and thinking about other people. So over here, let's look at when this pilot is flying the plane, which should be 90% of the time. And honestly, in our modern world, it's very rare that your life is truly in danger. That's when the other pilot should take over, when you are in a life-threatening situation. Here, it's danger and then really, really life-threatening, okay? But danger, like you're really worried for your safety. So most of the time you're not supposed to be living like that. You're supposed to be living calmly. So let's look at the parts of your body that are being impacted when the regular pilot is in control. Okay, so your digestion is going as it should be. You're able to break down your foods. handle your metabolism, your food will move through. So people, when I was doing a lot of functional health work, people were reaching out to me with a lot of digestive issues, and I myself also had that earlier in my life. You're resistant to infection. When you are in a calm, relaxed state with this part of your nervous system running your body, driving your ship, you can resist infections, serious infections, significant viruses, bacterial infections. Your body can handle it. The immune system is designed to do that. So the immune response is appropriate. Okay. You're able to get good rest. Your brain can shut off and let you go to sleep. I don't know if you can read this. That's why I'm reading each of these here for you. Um, your circulation is going to all of the parts of your skin that I'm sorry, parts of your body that need it. Whereas when you go into danger and definitely life threatening, your circulation leaves a lot of important places and only goes to the most critical. So you're getting good circulation throughout your whole body. Oxytocin, that is the hormone that we produce when we fall in love, when a mother gives birth and is bonding with her newborn baby. Oxytocin is being produced, so it's that wonderful feel-good hormone. That's the hormone that you're being produced. It's a neuromodulator, okay, that has you feel like you can bond to someone else. That's why when you're in love or bonding to a newborn, that's the hormone that's being produced when you're in this primary vagus nerve, parasympathetic, however you want to think of it, number one pilot running your ship. That's what's going on. Okay. Ability to relate and connect, etc. And your defensive responses are decreased, meaning somebody says something to you, you're not going to respond, defensively. You're not going to hear it as a criticism. You're not going to hear it as something to push back against. You're actually going to be able to hear it as a communication, which 9 times out of 10, it probably is meant that way. But when we're in an aroused state, so what happens when we get aroused, not in a good way, when we get aroused because something's happening, there's danger, we start to go into fight or flight. And it's interesting here that how these different words are going to show up. So I'm no longer calm. I perceive that there's a problem. I perceive there's some danger that I now have to act against. So we're in a place of I can do this, right? I can do this. I can handle this. But the primary things that we're feeling, if it's fight, we're feeling anger and rage. If it's more flight, we're feeling panic and fear. Okay, so you might be at either place depending on what's happening and what you're perceiving. But now you're in this aroused state. So now what happens to your body? The vagus nerve is no longer in charge. You switch over to the sympathetic nervous system. And here we go. Blood pressure, heart rate, the cardiovascular system all kicks in. I had a client recently reach out to me and she was like, I've had a lot of issues going on and I can't calm down and I'm actually shaking. That's because her body is getting the message fight or flight and is really pumping out everything she would need, but she's sitting in her chair at her desk and it's an accumulation of issues. But the shaking that she's feeling, and maybe you've experienced that, is this pumped up energy to be able to go fight or run, but it's not going anywhere, right? So the blood pressure, the heart rate, all of that, your cortisol goes up. And I'm going to talk about the adrenals in just a minute after I just go through this chart with you. But your cortisol gets pumped out. And when cortisol is getting elevated, that tells your body, oh, you're going to need blood sugar to have the energy to run or run or fight. So you're going to be pumping out blood sugar, which is now going to affect your insulin resistance, your metabolism. When that's happening over and over throughout the day, many times a day, days in a row, weeks, months in a row, now you develop insulin resistance, different metabolic disorders. You can't lose weight. Okay. The adrenaline, again, the adrenals I want to talk about in just a minute, but circulation to only the vital organs, and then things that the body perceives are not important to get the blood supply and the energy right now are going to be shut down. And that's really critical, again, especially for like the immune system and the hormones. All right, so your digestion slows down, or not slows down, but actually shuts down is the better way to say that. Your ability to relate to people. Now you're going to hear things from a defensive place because now you're ready to fight. And that's how your brain is looking at it. So your ability to be rational is diminished. Your immune response shut down. Not a time to fight those viruses that are floating around. Okay? You get dry mouth because all of these things are really being decreased. So, okay, let's just say you handle your issue and now all of that starts to get deactivated, and hopefully we would return back to the parasympathetic part of your nervous system. But what if that doesn't happen? What if you stay triggered in fight or flight? And now, once that is staying on for a long enough period of time, you're going into your body really thinks your life is threatened, as much as if there was somebody in your house with a knife and a stocking over his head. I mean, it feels to your body that threatening. And this is when we go into freeze. Okay, this is when you're in such a part of the nervous system that everything shuts down. So when you're first aroused into action, you're feeling like I can. And there's people, like, just think of a stressful situation that happened in your life. Maybe there was a death in the family, or somebody was ill and you had to be a caregiver for a while. Like, at first you kick in and you handle it and you're doing your thing and you're doing your thing. And it's not until it's all over that, like, you're poof, but you feel like I have to do this. I have to take care of it. When you stay there long enough, you start to feel like you can't handle it. You go into a frozen state. So there's feelings of helplessness. There's feelings of numbness, and you're dissociating from people around you. You're not responding socially. You kind of keep yourself withdrawn. Even within your household, you're disconnecting and you're feeling really numb. You're going to feel depressed over time. Whereas these emotions here, while they are, I'm not going to call them negative emotions, but they're more depleting emotions because they're using up your energy, but they're emotions that have energy to them. Depression is an emotion where it's a very low energy place to be, kind of just shut down, curled up on the couch. You're going to feel shame. Shame will kick in because you're feeling this lack of ability to cope and this helplessness, hopelessness. All right. So you collapse and you become immobile. And that is your body's way of conserving energy. So this is where I want to talk about the adrenals. People are familiar with the term, the adrenals are burned out or my adrenals are shot. For years and years, people were really speaking about it that way. And the most recent research says it's not that the adrenals get so burned out. It's actually they go into freeze. Your body recognizes I cannot sustain this level of arousal for this length of time. I'm not built to do that. We as human beings are not built for that pilot to fly our plane. He's only supposed to kick in when he really is needed. We're supposed to be down here most of the time. That's how we're wired. That's how our systems are set up. That's how our brain talks to our body. That's how we're supposed to be. So when the body sees I'm up here and it's been a long time, it knows it can't sustain that. So it's not that the adrenals get burned out. They actually start to shut down because they know that pumping out that level of cortisol over and over is not a good thing. So what happens is people try to take supplements to help their adrenals. And it might be that their adrenals need some help, but if you do that and you don't do what it takes to get yourself out of here and get yourself back down into this green area, all the supplements in the world are not going to get your adrenals functioning the way they should be again. All right. So it's not that your adrenals are shot and burnt out. It's they've purposely, your body's mechanism says, I need to conserve energy. I need to collapse this hyperly aroused state. But you're in freeze. And this is very interesting too, because if you look at the animal kingdom, the animals are really hardwired in very much the same way. So if you were on the plains in Africa and you saw a cheetah chasing a zebra, there's actually a book that was written in the 1970s called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. I think something like that. Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. And it talks about how in the animal kingdom, if an animal like a zebra is grazing on the plain and now a cheetah comes, the zebra will perceive the threat, fight or flight will kick in, they'll run. And if they get away, they'll just shake. That's that getting rid of the energy, the shaking, right? They'll shake. You see dogs do it all the time, even cats. They shake, 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 which is a release of all of that adrenaline and that energy that got pumped out. And then they just go back down here. They go back to eating. And they're not eating going, oh my God, why did that leopard pick me? Or cheetah. I said cheetah. Why did that cheetah pick me? Is he going to come after me again tomorrow? Is he you know, signaling me out from everybody else? He doesn't have those thoughts like people do. So the zebra just goes back and is very quickly, once the threat is gone, back here. Human beings don't do that. So if you stay up here, the other thing I wanted to say about that freeze response is, let's just say that that zebra did not get away from the cheetah. So the cheetah grabs him by the neck. The zebra goes into freeze, and that is his body's way. The numbness and the dissociation, that's protection. So he's not experiencing what's happening to him at the same level. He can, experience the threat of being caught removed. And sometimes, like some of those predators, they will drag their prey, their zebra, under a bush and go get the babies. So the babies learn how to hunt. In that moment, there's an opportunity for the zebra to realize, oh, I have a chance, and they snap out of it and they run away. If that doesn't happen, then they stay really dissociated and numb until they're dead. And that's the body's way of protecting them. So as human beings, we're doing the same thing. This numbness and dissociation is a way of protecting because you've been too under threat for too long. And then let me just go over here, since I did the other two sections. When you're in this freeze response, all right, so what goes up is fuel storage and insulin activity. That means weight gain. That means no matter what you do, you think you're trying to eat well on a diet, you're even trying to exercise, but your fuel is only getting stored. Your body is not going to release it. You're just in the type of behavior that is governed by fear. So the way that you interact with people, the way that you make decisions is all through a lens of fear. And that's the only way that you can see it. All right, I already talked about how you're meant to be numb and have your pain threshold raised, because in case you are that zebra that got caught by the cheetah, that's your body's way of protecting yourself through the experience. What goes down, your muscle tone, so your heart rate and blood pressure now, instead of staying so elevated, this is where the depression comes in. Like everything starts to shut down in a protective way, but not shut down like in a good way where you're calm. It's a shutdown way, not I'm a healthy living way. All right. Your facial expressions, your eye contact. Just think about when you're really, really stressed. You're not having calm conversations and looking people in the eyes and problem solving. That's not happening. And it's not your fault that it's not happening. So this shame is a part of this process, which is unfortunate because you're really in a nervous system response that is not your fault. Okay. It affects your sexual responses, your immune response, your social behaviors, all of that. And so over time, you have to deactivate this fight, flight, or freeze response and get yourself back to calm. Or if that doesn't happen, you're going to enter a zone where it's going to be very difficult to come back from. A zone of health issues, significant health issues that are going to be very difficult to unravel. You might enter a zone of um, relationship issues or even success in your job or lack of success because you're so in this place, you're not producing results the way you want to produce them in your relationships or in your job. So something is going to take some real significant hits. And as a person with a health background, I can tell you 100% of the time, you can't shut down these systems and not see health ramifications over time. You can't. So whether it's, the weight gain, lack of sleep, autoimmune conditions, your body's inability to fight viruses or rogue cells like cancer, all of that is going to be impaired. And at some point, you're going to have to really do a lot to turn that around. So I'm going to, let me see if I know how to do this. Exit full screen. If anybody wants this chart, I'm happy to send it to you. You just have to reach out to me. I think once you've looked at it with somebody going through it with you, it's pretty easy to understand. And okay. So I'd be happy to send that to you. It's not a chart that I made. It's a chart, that's out there to really understand the nervous system response. I wanted to share one other thing with you about that. I'm sure it'll come back to me. Anyway, so understanding what's happening in your body with your adrenals, with all of the systems of your body, and how important it is to get out in front of it. Oh, this is what I wanted to make a point of. In our modern world, people live certainly in that yellow zone, if not even in that red zone regularly, and have decided that it's normal. People have normalized that living in that kind of stressed state is what normal modern life means. People have normalized not getting enough sleep. Oh, it's not that bad. Yeah, who else is asleep? Everybody's doing like this. I hear this all the time with people that I get on the phone with. And to me, that's a huge red flag. If you have normalized and decided this is how life is supposed to be, you're missing your life because we really are made very perfectly to have a life in that green zone where not only are all the systems of our bodies working well, but our relationships, we can feel connected. We have that oxytocin coursing through our body, so we're feeling love, we're problem solving. That's the sweet spot of life. That's the place where you cause the life that you want and you live with energy and vibrancy and good health. But if you're going to justify and normalize that living in that yellow zone or that red zone is just how it is for you, and there is no other way, you're really robbing yourself of a life that you could have. So I know that in our modern world, it's easy to look around and find a lot of examples of people who do that. But you can also look around and find a lot of examples of people who are very successful in living in the other area, in that green parasympathetic place. And this is what it's going to take, and this is what I'll finish up with. It's going to take rewiring the way that you see the world, your typical neural pathways, and how you look at the world. Okay, especially if you have gotten to the place where you've normalized it. It's going to take teaching your body how to release those emotions of fear and anger and aggression, the things that were in the yellow and even in the red, depression. If that's been your normal home state place to live, your body doesn't know necessarily how to get out of it. There's definitely tools that we need to use to get that out so that you can deactivate and return back to normal. So you've got to address your neural pathways of how you think. It's like rewiring a house. I've moved into a very old house last fall. I'm just renting for a while, and the fuses blow all the time. This house was built in the 1880s. It was not made for modern life. And if I want to blow dry my hair and heat up a cup of tea, I'm going to blow a fuse. Okay. In order to change that, somebody has to come in, pull out the old wiring, and then put in new wiring that can handle what I want to do in my modern life, air conditioning, a blow dryer. It's the same way for the way that you think. You've got to get rid of that old wiring and create new neural pathways that are not going to see the events of your life as life threatening. Because remember, that pilot is only supposed to kick in when you are really life threatened. He's not supposed to take over every time you've got a lot on your shoulders with your schedule, every time you have an argument. I had a daughter who had catastrophic medical issues for 15 years. We lived on the edge of our seats with a devastating medical thing every time we turned around. I can't change that external circumstance. I can't change that that's her path. I can only change how I interpret it and how I choose to deal with it. All right. So you have to do that. So, and then you have to look at, what are the things that are still stuck in your body? Because again, we're not acting like zebras. We're not shaking it off and going back to life as usual. And for most people, messages that we got growing up, I don't know about you, but I remember my dad right now. I could hear him saying, "You want something to cry about? I'll give you something to cry about. You stop right now," right? The message was, there's no crying in baseball. The message was, suck it up. The message was, get it done and figure it out. And so that stress and upset from childhood stays in our bodies as well. So if you want to deactivate that response, if you know that you are in anger, frustration, or even all the way up in hopelessness, depression, feeling really shut down, disconnected, you've got to address all of it. And I'm happy to talk with you about how to do that. That's exactly how I work with my clients. And it's super fulfilling to see people undo all of that and to recover and get back down to that green place. But I'd be happy to speak with you about that. So I hope that gave you some insight about what's happening in your body. Again, rewiring your thoughts, releasing the energy that's accumulated, so physiologically releasing it, understanding your emotional home base, where you're living, and then how to get to emotions that are not so depleting, and how to get rid of the traumas, which sounds so dramatic, but whatever it was that you dealt with, whether it was a dad saying, "I'll give you something to cry about," or a child with chronic health issues, those traumas stay in the body. So whatever are yours, those are my examples, whatever are yours, you can learn a way to deal with them and navigate them and not kick in that physiological response that we just looked at. Okay? All right. That's it for today. And I'm sure I'll see you next week with something else to talk about. But really, really focusing on stress all month because it is Stress Awareness Month. And why not, right? All right, thanks so much. If you have any questions, please post them. This is streaming in multiple places, so I'll check all of those, and I'm so happy to answer your questions. Okay? Take care. Have a great weekend. Bye.